Couldn't have done it without them. But even as a cohort, because every third weekend as we got together, we fully support each other. And that was great. I mean, you'll hear me say it again a little bit, but the level of talent that is sitting right up here in these seats is just mesmerizing. And just glad to be part of it. So I was taken by surprise on two things today when I got here. Number one, I found out there was no walking microphone. Anybody who knows me, I'm not a podium microphone kind of guy. So if I look a little bit stuffy, it's because I'm out of my element. I'd much rather be pacing around, but then maybe no one's in the back, so you can hear me as well. So, having said that, anyone else who knows me knows if I'm not a podium guy, that means I don't have a prepared speech that I'm up here going to be reading off of and looking up. I'm more of a talk from the hip. What I do have is a few, I don't see Dr. Liang here today. He would call these, what I do have is some cheating sheets. Don't get the wrong idea. Don't get the wrong idea. We didn't cheat. But if we were given a PowerPoint presentation, we had a little 3x5 card, which he said we could, he would make reference to our cheating sheets. So I do have a few of those. And the last thing I was surprised by, and I told Pete when I first got here, was the size of this room. Because I thought I had seen last year's or year before's AMBA hooding ceremony on YouTube somewhere or on Facebook. And maybe I saw a wrong angle because I thought it was a much smaller room. So therefore, these cheating sheets I'm going to have to read as well because there's no way my font is big enough for everyone. But they're really designed for my cohort. So bear with me. Without further ado, my first cheating sheet. Now, at this point in time, I'm holding up 3 question marks. My cohorts are looking at me like, Emmett, that's awesome. It was a great presentation. 3 question marks. You really have to hit yourself. That's why we voted for you. Right? The question marks are really because of that to remind me, I'm not sure why, honestly, that I'm going up here. As I told, as we were gathering, putting on our gowns, and people were congratulating me and so forth. I'm like, well, thank you, because I appreciate it. I consider it an honor, but you believe me when I say it, any one of us, So I appreciate it. Thanks so much. So this is kind of a walk back through the last 12 months. Kind of bear with me. If there's a little bit of inside joking, you'll understand why, and you can get your loved ones to maybe explain some of the inside stuff later. So I don't mean to be rude, but if I focus on my new friends up here, you'll know why. So my next cheating sheet, we go back 12 months. We have, this is Beaver versus Wild Golf. And while we are in the early throes of college football season, which by the way, why are we here at 4 o'clock on a Saturday? Dr. Pointer, I'm not sure what time, your Gamecocks play tonight, I guess against Vandy, that's why. No thought to us volunteer fans, and the game's probably over by now, you know what I mean? So Beavers and Wild Dogs, of course, that was our first initial homework assignment. Even before the orientation, much less before the first class, when Dr. Moore assigns us to do several assessments, one of them is just to take what I'll just call the animal test, and we were all labeled as an animal. And so my comment is, I will certainly never think of a beaver or a wild dog without thinking of this class, that's for sure. My next cheating sheet. Now, I should show this one to Dr. Shelley. It looks like ho and haw, and it is ho and haw, but when I saw it for the first time, I thought it was hoo-ah. But Dr. Shelley is not Al Pacino, and we're not all on the set of the movie Scent of a Woman, so I knew it wasn't hoo-ah. It was from statistics. And it had been a long time since I had taken undergrad statistics, so when I first saw this, even with my boot camp class, that was still a memory that I'll have to this day. We had some significant words, there's one, that came out of AMBA cohort, right? And if I asked you, okay, cohorts, before I start this, I'll give you each an index card. Write down a word that we've heard more than any other word in the last, first term, this time last year, particularly in one class. I think you would agree it would have been this word. I already gave you a hint. It's significant. And if there's one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that Dr. Shelley taught us in the statistics class was an answer could be right, but if it wasn't significant, then it still was wrong. And you're going to see that reflected on your grade. So from this day forward, whenever I hear the word significant, as we all will, I'm sure we'll all think of our English. Now, some of these cheating sheets, I'm going to refer to those to people the wrong idea, need no explanation, and perhaps I don't have to say anything else. And this next one, it may mean more to a few than others. If you have questions afterwards, feel free scene, okay? So I don't necessarily have an explanation, but this is for you all. We'll talk later. Okay, this is the date. Those of you who can't see it, it is November the 3rd of 2012. Now there's a couple professors on this stage who should know very well why I'm even talking about this date. For those of you who don't know, this was the last day of the first term of our annual cohort. So we're starting to celebrate. We're at lunchtime, we're kicking back, we're all we got left is one more class, and we're thinking, yeah, you know, this isn't going to be too bad. We've heard about how hard this is going to be, and you'll spend time with families and you miss games, but we're going to be okay. Dr. Pointer's class is done. We might have another assignment for Dr. Shelley, and we'll have to do the final exam for Dr. Moore. He was kind enough to give us 30 days to do it, so I think we were okay with that. So we were thinking, the next class isn't until November the 30th, right? We got a little break, right? Well, on that day, if you recall correctly, I believe in order, it was probably Dr. Miller who stood up first. In one hand, holding a book. And I won't put words in your mouth, but it was basically saying, you will read this book, and you will answer this set of questions about this book by the first day of class. And oh yeah, here's our operations textbook. You'll read the first 4 chapters, look in your syllabus, you'll find your assignment, have that completed by the first day of class. And yeah, lastly, you're going to have a major research paper. I need you to email me what your topic's going to be, anything in operations, right? And oh yeah, by the way, that research paper's got to have 15 scholarly references. You know, don't be looking at Forbes magazine, right? Exactly. We know what a scholarly references was by this point. So, but we absorbed that. We're like, okay, that's all right. Well, we got 3 weeks to prepare, no big deal. We're good. Well, Dr. Bryant, bless his heart, he goes there. He's also holding a book. Don't you? That was an awesome book. The World is Flat. Read it. Oh, it was a great read. You will have this book read by the first day of class, and you will write a paper on it. Check your syllabus for the assignment. And you know, here, this is the transformational management textbook. You'll have the first 4 chapters to read and look at your syllabus for the assignment. And lastly, you're going to read the Nike case in the back of the textbook. You're going to have that case due by the first day. And we're just like, okay. Back to reality. We did sign up for an accelerated master's program, put our mining, but our little lunch holiday was over. Thanks to our good friend doctors. And don't see Dr. Trainer here. He had mercy on us. His textbook wasn't even in yet. My next card could be the name of a rock band. In one form of a rock group. I don't know if we have any instrumentation, musicians here in our group or not. But if we did, we could call it Alex and the Bottleheads. Or it could have been Jonah or Peach. Sorry, that's my daughter's name, Peach, but not the wrong Peach. But it's not. So the memory, of course, would be, if you take the same memory from that luncheon on 11/3/12 that I took, and we're finding about Alex and Jonah and Peach and all the bottleneck fun, Dr. Miller tells us, I've read this book, I believe, 38 times, and you're going to get this out of it, right? So, my only comment in memory is, Dr. Miller, I assure you, I read the book 1 time, and that's enough. And speaking of Dr. Miller, there were some phrases that professors gave us that, whether they knew it or not, we kind of adopted and took on our own and started to say a lot amongst ourselves and so forth. And so the next one, I'm sure you'll recognize that. Before I show it to you, you know what it is. Right? Couldn't get through a Dr. Miller lecture without counting and keeping Roman numeral tabulation notes with the number of times that we heard, if you will, if you will. Followed up by Dr. Ryman's class. We had just spent the night before in the very first finance class with Trainer, coming out of our very first operations class with Miller, so we're all about, the cash, making profits. Dr. Ryman asks us, midway through our first global business lecture, so what do you think the real purpose of a business is? What does a business exist? To which, without practicing, we as a cohort basically yelled at him. We did not rehearse this, ladies and gentlemen. This is like the newlywed game where they have to guess what's on my card, and y'all got that one right. So make one. Now, a year ago, if you told me, Emmett, with this is all over, your cohorts will bestow upon you the honor of being the class representative to give the foot in the grass, and you'll have to talk about this next subject on my next card. I would have looked at you and said, well, are you insane? Because I don't know how that's going to apply to me in an MBA. Well, I'm not going to pick on Dr. Ryan because it wasn't him, but it was his class. We had a great detailed project with the Eastman Company, part of which was a little product called the Hydro Pack. And we all remember the Hydro Pack. But my comment is, I'm sure I will never drink any flavor of Gatorade for the rest of my life without thinking that it could be toilet water. So the explanation for those that don't know the toilet water, no great detail, but we were told that you could take this fancy Hydro Pack super, which has like Gatorade powder in it, put it in a dirty toilet overnight, come back 8 hours later, have a nice refreshing Gatorade type drink. And we were actually given Hydro Packs to take home if we wanted to try it. And I'm not going to ask for a show of hands who actually tried it. Hopefully knows. Have another date. Now you're on to me. Now you know where I'm going with this. And your brain's already thinking. So this date is February the 9th. We're in the next year, 2013. Moving right along. This happens to be the date of the last class of our second term. We have 4 terms. It's the last day of the second, right? We had 12 months. It's the last day of the 6th month. We had 36 hours. It's the last day of the 18th hour. However you want to break that down, we thought we were halfway through, they said. Right. Now, I don't see Dr. Turner here today, but Dr. Turner stood up during this luncheon that we had. I got to lunch. I didn't want to go to lunch on the last day of the term. I feared what we were going to find out. But Dr. Turner tells us, without us saying that we're halfway through, he was reading our minds. So he gets up and says, if any of you were thinking that you're halfway through, you got nothing coming. If any of you were thinking you're on the downhill side of this MBA program, you've got another thing coming. So once again, we were brought back to reality rather quickly. And if he were here, and I'll tell him the next time I see him, is that he did say one thing on a serious note that I do think that we all took to heart. And that was, he backpedaled for just a second and said, if you're here for a piece of paper, if you just want the diploma, fine. You're halfway through. Do the math. You're on the downhill side. But if you want to get the most out of the program, if you want to be the best MBA you can be, then you're not. You got a lot more work left to do. And I'll remember that forever. So, back to a couple of professor comments. And there's one professor that I don't see here. I think I did mention him earlier. Who gave us a word that we got to hear frequently. And it's not the one you're thinking of. They would probably have me say it, and I'm not going to get in trouble. It's not that word. But I assure you, from now on, the rest of my life, if I hear the word sexy, I'm going to think of Dr. Liang. But it's not the word sexy, is it? We know it's sissy. Which is how we spelled it amongst all of our cohort emails. S-E-S-S-Y. We use that very frequently. And Dr. Liang, bless his heart, we loved him. Great class, lots of energy, and he had one other key phrase. And just ask my kids what that phrase is right now if you want to, because I'm sure they know what's on this card. And during the middle of the lecture, he might use it, and at the end of the lecture, he might use it. If you're on a break, you go in the restroom, you might use it in there all the time. And of course, the phrase was, maybe you say, which is how he would say it. And he actually encouraged us to use it. Switching gears, I'm on the downhill side now. AMBA, the Accelerated MBA program, had a lot of food involved in it, I assure you. As a matter of fact, Pete told us on day 1 that you will gain weight during this program. I didn't want to make Pete look bad. I took one for the team. I'm glad the gowns are loose. We ordered them months ago, thank goodness. But so I've got a few notes just about food. That's a little humorous, but also memorable as we go forward. I can't do anything specific, but I can tell you that there was a piece of fruit that made its way around this classroom a lot during our AMBA court, especially in the second and third terms. And so I assure you that I'll never have an orange for the rest of my life without thinking of these 28 people in the AMBA cohort days. I don't think any of us ate it, and it was again Dr. Turner that actually called us one time and gave us the evil eye, and he's not here to back that up. So another food item, I'll never eat one again without thinking of AMBA. I guarantee you, with maybe one exception out there, no one can guess what animal would be on my card. So let me show it to you, and then I'll explain. But see, that didn't get much of a reaction, so I got to explain why. It's lobster. Because I got a bunch of confused looks like, really? Emmett, lobsters? You know, they didn't serve us lobster on Friday night, at least not the times that I could. They didn't serve us lobster on the Saturday lunch break between the classes. So why are you talking about lobsters? Well, for those of you who are not in Dr. Trainer's summer equity evaluation class, you missed out on lobster traps. And if he were here, he'd be scratching his head saying, okay, that might be a finance term, Emmett, but I didn't teach lobster traps, so what are you talking about? Okay? Well then, but all of us had Dr. Pointer's accounting class. And if you remember or not, but there was a little module on Lobsters Unlimited. And bless their hearts, they were not able to sell their lobsters, so they weren't branded properly. And so we had to figure out how to help them sell lobsters. So I'm telling you, I'll never have another lobster without thinking of you guys. A couple more food items. Wrapping up, I promise. Every Friday night, we had one particular dish. I think most of them know what it is. Now, it was different every 3 weeks, but it had one common ingredient. What was the common ingredient? Carrots. Again, we didn't rehearse it, folks, but they got the new name right. Carrot du jour. But we knew on Friday night if we didn't polish off that dish in the buffet lunch, we were going to see that again Saturday lunch. Now, they might sprinkle some cheese on it, some sugar on Saturday lunch to make it, like try to disguise it, but we knew what they were trying to do. So I will never have carrots again, probably ever anyway, but much less without thinking of you guys. All right, last food item in particular goes back to Pete's comment about putting on the extra pounds. And this is the item that helped me put on the pounds. Every class, about halfway through, the Millennium Center would bring out snacks for us, which is why we put on the weight. But my favorite snack was cookies. But now on my sheets, I've got cookies. You probably can't tell, but I've got the word warm underlined. So they're warm cookies. Well, the problem was, and I don't see Dr. Alavi here, but his lectures would go long. He did not time his lectures to coincide with the freight person out there putting the cookies out. So while he's up lecturing on macroeconomics, I'm trying to keep my brain focused on that. I see the cookies go out in this cart, and I'm thinking they're going to be cold. So there's a couple of engineers in this group, I think. And they're the ones that came up with the concept, hey, if you put your cookie on your laptop battery pack, it'll warm up for you. And it works really good. Just wanted you to know that. Last food item, there was a rumor that the professor that was teaching on Friday nights got to choose the Friday night dinner, and the professors teaching the Saturday classes got to get together and choose that. I don't know if it's true or not. Not asking for confirmation, but if that rumor is true, we have one of these fine professors to thank for making our lives a little bit more miserable on a Friday night. It's about this time last year, we're all still nervous. We don't know each other that well yet. We've already been assigned into groups if we're a beaver or a wild dog or whatever else you want. So we're going to show up and give presentations. It's our first master's level presentation. Don't know what the professor is expecting. And we're already nervous anyway. What do we have to eat that night? Y'all remember? Meg's so good. Y'all were scoring 100. No wonder it was. And that was Dr. Moore's night. So to this day, we still blame Dr. Moore for choosing Mexican night just as an extra test to say, okay, these guys are coming in, they think they got it going. They're already nervous, I know it. Let's feed them refried beans and see how they act. 2 slides left. This last one I want to show to you. It says PPT. We've heard a lot about acronyms today, and we'll hear a lot more, but what does PPT mean? Obviously, for us, anyway, for the last year, it's just been a PowerPoint extension, right? Okay. So when I find out, Emmett, you've been given the honor of being the class representative, and these are the parameters you have to operate under. My mind went immediately, not knowing again the size of the rooms. I said, hey, I can do a PowerPoint. So I started on PowerPoint. We are all PowerPoint pros. I'm telling you, after a year, if you weren't before you started the program, you are now. So I already put this PowerPoint together. I'm probably about 10 days after finding out that I'm going to be the speaker. And I kid you not, it was probably around 100 slides. I mean, I had pictures, I had quotes, I had, I won't get into that, I had everything on there. And I get an email from Dr. Pointer. And she says, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, your address should be about no longer than 15 minutes. Well, I'm thinking immediately to myself, what am I going to do now? I got a PowerPoint here with 100 plus slides. I've got 15 minutes to give it in. Nobody can do that except for Dr. Pointer. So I had to obey that idea. Right? Last card and I'll wind up, so thanks for your attention. If you had asked me, Emmett, can you close this with one word? What is one thing that you would take with you from this anchor program? Would it be education, knowledge, it was an MBA, a new skill set, use some fancy words, Okay, yeah, all those are great, you could have done that. I chose to come up with one word that I'll take away with me. So I'll share the word with you. It's the word respect. And I have it on 3 levels. And the first, respect for this institution, respect for this program, the fact, as you heard Dean Garso allude to, with its excellent accreditation. The second level of respect would be with regard to our professors, all of them. I think, there are certainly more professors available to the university than what we were exposed to in the CBAC. But as Dean Garso said, they pick the best and give them to us. And excellent level of respect for everyone. And the last level of respect would be for my friends. As I said a year ago, coming to Dr. Moore and his class and make a joke and so forth, we didn't know each other, and we did. But we do now. And so we started out with 30. We lost 1 to serve our country. And so we're left with 29. And so I think 28 new friends. I have ultimate respect for all of them, and will always hold this deep in my heart and cherish. So with that, I say thank you and appreciate your time. And I guess I'll go straight to the next presentation. This was, I guess, actually, I had 3 surprises today. And my third surprise was, oh, we didn't tell you. You get to present the plaque and let the audience know who we selected as a cohort for our, what I'll call Professor of the Year, so to speak, an outstanding professor that we got to vote on. And we already noticed that some professors are here today and some are not. I'm pleased to tell you the one that we're honoring today is present with us. You heard me talk about college football earlier on, in reference to that. And I picked on Dr. Pointer and her beloved Gamecocks. I'm just glad that class was last September, so I had time to forget about all this South Carolina stuff. But seriously, there was another professor that also just loved college football. And I'm sure you all remember who that is. But beyond college football, I've never seen such a whiz of a mind, mathematically and statistically, which will give you a hint as to who our professor is. Primarily the fact, I'm sure that we as a cohort, when we agreed to select him, would have been for all the same reasons, with the exception of the college football. But he was always available. His class was extremely organized. If we ever had any questions, any problems, he was there for us, even during the weeks in between our meetings, whether it was online or through video tutorials or whatever the case may be. And so aside from the fact that he is a major Hokie fan, sorry, everything else about Dr. Shelley, spot on. So I'll read the plaque and ask Dr. Shelley to come up and I'll present it to him. Presented in recognition of inspiring teaching and a keen interest in the welfare of students in the accelerated MBA, Dr. Kelly Gary L. Shelley, September 23rd.
Thank you very much, Emmett. That was an excellent, excellent speech. To get a crowd laughing really says about a great deal about you as a speaker. And hopefully you really reflected upon those memories that you will always have of the program. We are going to next begin with putting up the candidates. I want to talk a little bit about the regalia, because often you see people in academic regalia and you don't necessarily know what it means. All of our graduates have a robot. They look at it, it's going to be different from the regalia that they may have had as undergraduates. The sleeve hangs down and is distinctive for the master's degree. They will be receiving their hoods. Now, what is the hood? You're going to see it over there, and they have velvet on